Stuart Pearce, you and I have had so many conversations about Jude Bellingham. And Morgan says that he's known him all his life. So I think he's his mate, but I'm really intrigued as to what he said there, more so about the whole group being together.
Yeah, I don't think there's, sometimes you see certain individuals playing in the same position. You think there's antagonism between the two. I mean, in my time, I was understudy to Kenny Sampson for a while, and I revered Kenny, to be quite honest with you. And then when I got the number 3 berth, Tony DeRigo, myself and him get on brilliantly. And then I go out the squad, but still around the squad, and Graham Lassau's the left back, and you support him. So I think sometimes people look at players in the same position and think they won't get on because of this or because of that, because they're vying for the same place. But sometimes you can be the best of friends.
Have we, in terms of Jude Bellingham, and I'll ask you, Charlie, being from the player's point of view, and the most recent player here, is there too much said? Is there too much media chatter about Jude Bellingham, and do we interpret and sometimes misinterpret every single action that he does, whether on or off the field?
Yeah, I think when you've got a character like Jude Bellingham with such quality, it plays with freedom on the pitch. I think what comes with that, you walk a tightrope. You get some times where he refuses maybe to come off the pitch. He maybe gets in arguments with managers. He maybe gets in argument with his own players. He gets booked for the referee. We've seen him have bits of dissent and some arguments and fights with referees. And I think that comes part and parcel. And I think in the media, we'll talk about it, make a big deal of it. But I think when you want these top-class players, this is what comes with it. We see Ronaldo getting sent off in his last game for Portugal there. These top players walk a tightrope, in my opinion. And what comes with that, sometimes it goes over the edge a wee bit. But a lot of the time, it can produce world-class moments. Like we've seen his overhead kick in the last Euros. He can produce big moments for England. And I think that's why I ask about Thomas Tuchel, because I think that it's up to him to get the best out of these players and make sure that they feel the love from him, they feel that connection, and allows them to go. And he understands that it might spill over at the edge at times, but also they'll bring some great moments. And I think Bellingham's a player that needs to play for England. And if he's not playing for England and he's on the bench, he's upset about it. You wouldn't want. I mean, there's two good managers here and coaches here, in Stuart and Alan, and you wouldn't want your players to be happy about being on the bench. You want them to be upset. You want them to, even though it's their mate maybe in front of them, you want them to be a bit of needle in training. You want them to fight for their place, because that's what creates competition within a team.
Sometimes there's a quality clearly with Jude Bellingham, but there are issues with him as well that the media see. But is that totally up to the manager? And it doesn't really care it doesn't really matter what the media say?
Well, look, first and foremost, Jude Bellingham's no wallflower. He's got a personality that retracts into his game. So, part of what he is as a footballer is a strong personality. So I'm sure he's not easy at times. But Thomas, the manager, Tuchel, at times for me, has kind of fueled the agenda with the media about Jude. He's the problem. He's... he leaves him out and he talks about him, the mother quote, his mother, and I just think he should have put that all to bed and just really embrace this character, because we ain't winning the World Cup unless he's playing, in my opinion.
Do you think so? Because I really like Morgan Rogers. His pass for Watkins for the equaliser the other night.
He's a great player.
Unbelievable. So would it be that absurd to think that Jude Bellingham's on the bench while Rogers is in the 10, or Phil Foden's in the 10 even? Jude
Bellingham could be in the 8. What necessarily means he needs to be in the 10. What you do need, and I'm sure Stewie might back me up with Gaza, you wouldn't leave Gaza out of the team. Now, you could say, oh, well, Jude Bellingham's not Gaza, but I think he is of that quality, different type of player. And I think at some point, they will fall in love with each other.
I look at Alex Ferguson. I think you're spot on with that. Would he have left Cantona out?
No.
He'd have caused some problems in his time. I imagine a changing room and spilt over the edge, but I think when you're an artist and you play with that sort of freedom, I think that comes with territory sometimes.
I think this is probably how I see it. I think if you're a manager and you see that if you put a Gaza and you put a Cantona and you put a Jude down and said, is there a slight difference between all three of them? The perception is that two of them are team players, Cantona and Gaza, but the perception of Bellingham is maybe he's in it for himself slightly. Now, I know you've got to be self-centric as a player. That's what makes players the quality that they are. But somewhere down the line, the only thing that matters at the end of the day, when everyone boards an aeroplane to arrive in the map that we've got in front of us, is a unified squad, because only a unified squad will win a tournament.
Yeah, well, I think Bellingham will be more of a problem if he ain't playing, Stuart, in that term. But I also think that with him, I don't think he's selfish when I watch him play. Now, they put that trait against him. It might be that, okay, he absorbs the press a little bit more and gets a bit kind of, I don't know, defensive about the media coverage that he gets. I think there's a bit of that in there. But I don't think he plays selfish. And I certainly think, for me, he should play.
I don't think that the Portuguese media or fans will be talking about the selfishness of Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that he
You know
can
what I
be
mean?
selfish on occasion.
Yeah.
And he's done no too bad.
He scored a few goals.
Yeah.
Portugal, 1 or 2. And they've done a few things with him in the side.
And I could say another name as well, Mbappe, who gets it a lot in the French press about how selfish he is and that players don't want to play for him, etc., etc. But, you know, I'm pretty sure he's going to start for France.
I think that we're all agreed that Bellingham's going to be in the squad. Would you think he's guaranteed to be in the 11, Stu?
I think with this manager, on what I've seen over the last 4 games, I don't think there's a guarantee.
No, I agree with that.
I think he's put a statement down. No one's guaranteed. Your form's got to get you in or get you out, you know. And I've been in and around squads and looked on occasions and thought to myself, you're not in this team on form, you're in on reputation, and that's a dangerous thing to have. You know what I mean? I think for any manager.
I think the person I'll really worry about, or I think would be great to take to the World Cup, is Trent. Because obviously he took like a bad injury. He looked in the week, and he's been out for 2 months. He's not really been part of Thomas's team.
Yep.
I'll worry for him.
Yeah, there are some who, like Trent, who haven't really played under Tuchel. Cole Palmer's played 60-odd minutes under Tuchel and didn't play particularly well in that game. And he's in a position, Cole Palmer, where there's a lot of competition. And in fact, that number 10 position, we're talking about it with Jude. You mentioned Jude could play the 8, and of course he could, but Declan Rice is the 8 at the moment, surely. And I don't think that's going to change, barring...
Well, Declan could be the 6.
Elliot Anderson has made the 6 his own, hasn't he? Am I missing something here?
No,
I can't see that midfield shake-up of...
Well, at the
Anderson,
moment,
Rice
because,
changing.
you know, but form changes, and England teams change dramatically when you get into those last 3 months of the season, because suddenly players really get into their groove, and they're going for the title, they're this, they're that, and they can evolve into something else. And the England team, even in tournaments, look at the tournament when Peter Beardsley didn't get a game, and then we suddenly looked at an amazing team when they put him in the team.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, 86, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the team that got to the quarterfinals and lost to the hand of God was very different to the team that started.
Correct.
Certainly up front as well. But it's a conundrum, isn't it? And I think that the whole world...
Nice conundrum, isn't it?
It is. But when you've got Jude Bellingham and he's won everything, I think the outside perception is, yes, that he can be quite selfish. I think I understand what you're saying there, Stuart, but it's also that you can't surely leave him out if you want to be serious about winning a World Cup.
I always stripped it back whenever I managed, and I thought, is that the best 11 on a football pitch? And I'll take the flack outside the football pitch, and maybe that's why I haven't lasted a great length of time as a manager, maybe. But that's how I looked at it. The best players will be in the team, and they're in, and every time you go and face either the group or the media and answer questions, why is that your 11? Well, because they're the ones on form and they're the best players, and that's the unity that 11 have got. And I think that's fair, whether it be Jude or whether it be anyone else. A player playing, we talked about the options that England have got. Eze can play there, Foden can play as a 10, Bellingham can play as a 10.
It's probably our strongest position we've had at number
100%.
10 for many a year. Well, forever perhaps.
Yeah.
Because it's always been a problem position for us, unlocking a really tight defence, like coming up against Denmark or Norway in the past and Sweden. We could never break them down, never had the quality. Now, we should definitely have the quality to break anyone down.
So how can we name in the 5th of December what we think the number 10 will be in 8 or 7 months'
Yeah,
time.
correct.
It's impossible because the form varies that much. I remember a couple of months ago, and we should know better, Lewis Skelly was going to be England's left-back for the next generation. All of a sudden, he can't get in Arsenal's team, and he's fighting to get in the international team. We should know better, but we don't.
No, it's true. And he can't even get in the squad at the minute. That could turn around as well.
100%.
But there is only one camp left, England camp left before he has to pick the World Cup squad. And I think that's quite crucial because, as we've talked about before, international managers, Stuart, will pick a player because of what they've done for them rather than necessarily what they're doing in club form generally.
Yeah.
He has said, though, Tuchel, that the player has to be playing. He's made that clear. And that was about Lewis Skelly, wasn't it? If he's not playing, it's going to be a problem, was what he said. Not playing for Arsenal, it's become a problem for him.
Yeah, which is fair. But listen, if Declan loses his position at Arsenal for the last month of the season, I think he'll still be getting on an aeroplane and starting for England, potentially. But, you know,
I think it would be difficult to understand if he lost his place at Arsenal. But then, as we say, form can turn around. I think as well, on Bellingham with Tuchel, I think that what he's been saying about Tuchel, even in the interview we did with him at St George's Park, there's lots of things he said about Jude Bellingham. Do you actually think all of this is measured by Thomas Tuchel, that he knows exactly what he's saying and he's just seeking to mid to long term manage the player ahead of the World Cup?
I've got to say yes. It will be measured and thought out. You know, Pardew, you've walked into press conferences before, and you'll know what's going to be in your mind and the messages you want to put out there. So it will be measured with all managers. But I honestly feel as though he gives an honest assessment of players if you ask him a question, and sometimes he wouldn't have to do that in the position he's sat in. If you're England manager, you know you're going to get dissected. He got dissected for something he said for an interview with me and you about Jude in the summer, which I felt sorry for him because I don't think it come across like he meant it to come across in some ways.
Yeah, if you actually go back, it was you, by the way. It was your question, and it was a question.
Just thrown me under the bus, Charlie.
Just wanted to put it out.
Unbelievable.
Thomas, it was Stuart's fault.
If anybody wants to know, it was Stuart Pearce's question. But you asked him a question about tactics, and he suddenly comes out with this, my mother's repulsed by his behaviour, which is, has become... and at the time, we're all totally shocked. There's a big reaction to it. But as time's gone on, I've thought... He really, whether he wanted to say that word is another matter, but he really wanted to say something about Jude Bellingham. It's become clear to me.
I think he gave an honest assessment, but his wording was probably a little bit stronger in translation than it was meant, you know?